The dogs cover the ground so efficiently and effectively that it's enjoyable to watch the dogs work. And as a handler, just being out there in some of the best parts of the country with your dog, watching the dog work and knowing that you're making a real difference to people's lives is really rewarding.
These are air scenting dogs. Air scenting dogs' job in mountain rescue is to search an area and either find any missing people within that area or confirm that that area is empty.
We're part of a team, so in any genuine emergency, you'll have multiple dog teams, you'll have ground teams, you'll have helicopters, you might have the police out searching as well, sometimes other agencies. So being part of that and being part of something that allows that person to go home to their family at the end of the day is really special.
My name's Dave Astley. I'm a dog handler with Calder Search and Rescue Team and Mountain Rescue Search Dogs England. Currently I'm handler of Jack, who's been operational for about 7 years, and I'm also training a new dog, Tess, who's a stage 2 trainee and will hopefully take over from Jack from next January. So Calder Search and Rescue Team provides the emergency service cover to anyone who's lost or injured in the northern half of West Yorkshire. And within that there are handlers who are part of Mountain Rescue Search Dogs England. So they're handlers who are also members of Calder Search and Rescue Team for their operational responsibilities. Mountain Rescue Search Dogs England is a training organisation that ensures that people wanting to be handlers get the right training and that search dogs are qualified and up to the appropriate operational standard before they're allowed to be used in a call out or an emergency.
Okay, so what we're going to see here, the handler's going to use his dog to search for a missing person in this area. What he'll do is he'll set the dog off. The dog will do what we call quartering. The dog will hunt covering the wind. Remember, the dog is searching the wind, not the ground. So all the dog needs to do is cover enough of the area that the dog's been where wind's coming off all of the area in order for the dog to find that missing person. Okay, so you can see the handler's prepared his dog to set off and search the area. He's just fitted a working jacket to the dog, both to give him the visual of the dog and also to trigger the dog so the dog knows she's working, she's doing her job. The objective of this is for the dog to cover enough of the area that the dog's been through the wind that's come off all of the ground. So the dog is searching the wind, not the ground, and that's important to bear in mind. The dog does not need to cover all the ground, the dog merely needs to cover the wind that's been on all of the ground. What will happen when the handler goes into the area to begin with, they will make an assessment based on their experience, the terrain and the wind conditions of how big a patch of ground they cover by going over. On a day like today, the wind is very strong. That dog is probably covering around 50 yards. And what the handler will do will be to devise a search strategy where they will cover enough of the area that they've been within 50 yards of every piece of ground.
It's very important you understand the dog and how the dog works, because the big part of our job is searching areas and saying that no one's in that area. So you need to know how the dog's going to react in every circumstance so that you can read that dog's body language, you can interpret how that dog's working and why, so that you've got the strongest chance possible of knowing exactly what's in any area that you've searched.
Because of the way the dog's trained, the handler can send the dog off to find people. The handler can carry on his own path, and the dog's working independently of the handler, so they're covering a lot more of the ground. What you can see there is the dog's actually picked up on the scent of the person. You'll hear the dog bark to say that they've found the missing person. That was very, very quick. The dog's now going to find her way back, so she's actually got to find David. The dog's made her way out the way she went in. She'll have an idea where he is in the area, and she's actually working her way back to him to tell him that she's found. And what you'll see as you watch the dog is she's identified where he is, she's making her way up to him. She's going to go and bark at David to demonstrate that she's made the find. What you shot!
Yes,
Oh, what a
that's
clever
it.
boy! Well
Good
done!
boy.
Well
Yay.
done! When the handler gets there, that's the point where the dog's done its job and where the dog gets the reward. Now, all of these dogs are rewarded by toys. They each have their own special favourite toy that they use and that only comes out for doing this type of work. And the body will be the one that plays with the dog, because that's what it's all about and that's where the reward's coming from.
My name's Denise and I'm a dog's body, so I'm a volunteer who hides from the dogs and helps with training. Well, years ago I'd heard about dog's bodying because I've always been a bit outdoorsy and walking a lot anyway. And a friend had told me about dog's bodying, but I used to live in a place in Nottingham where it wasn't really possible. And then I moved up here and found a leaflet from the local team asking for dog's bodies, so I just contacted the name on the leaflet and started working locally. And that was 7 years ago. And then bit by bit, you've ended up doing more dog's bodying, both locally and nationally. The most challenging thing then, I suppose, is being able to respond to the conditions and make sure that you're going to stay safe and warm for the period of training. And you do get a lot of support with that, but you might be out in hail, snow, rain, or sunshine.
I've been a dog's body with the team for about 18 months now. I originally started volunteering because I attended an open day at the Post when the team were looking for new people to take on a role called active supporter. So they're people who are involved with fundraising and various other support activities in the team. I really like dogs a lot, so I was really interested in kind of learning more about how the dogs train and how they work with the handler and how they're kind of integrated into the team. I do a lot of outdoor sport myself. I've always been really keen on walking and fell running. So again, there was a kind of interest in the team in the sense that I knew that if I had an accident when I was out doing my hobbies, these are the people that would come and rescue me. And so I went through the assessment for training to be an operational team member about 6 weeks ago. So I've just started my 6-month training programme. So lots of things to learn about that. I hope that one day I might be able to train a dog of my own, but that's a little way off yet. I've got kind of a lot of other stuff that I need to do first of all, but I find it really rewarding. I really like being around the dogs. They're amazing, the work that they do, and it's just nice to be a part of it.
Well, when you get a call out, and it's a dog call out, then you have a sort of surge of adrenaline. You've got to get yourself ready, you've got to coordinate what you're doing. It depends on the circumstances of the call out. If you're being called out to another area, you may need to sort yourself out a navigator. So somebody come and support you to work with you as your dog team. So your dog team, as I think's been said, you have basically the dog, the handler and a navigator, and that's quite an important team for an effective dog unit. So you get an adrenaline rush, you sort of keyed up for what you're doing, you're getting your gear ready, you're finding out where you're going to, you're trying to gain information, you're trying to coordinate getting somebody in to support you as well. And you're very focused for that period of time. And it's quite important, however, when you actually get to the incident, that you're relaxed enough to be able to listen carefully to what people are saying and instructions they're giving you. So in other words, really you have to turn that blue light off when you actually get to the incident and slow down a bit and take a deep breath.
So I think for me there's two things that really stand out as the most impactful. The first one was grading with Jack, getting qualified. That was the culmination of 3 years hard work with that dog and the end of a tough weekend of assessment in the Lake District, searching multiple areas on mountainsides over 3 days. To reach that standard was very, very special. Very few people will ever reach that standard as a dog handler. There's, as I say, only 30 of us covering England at the moment, so that felt very special to do. And then earlier this year we found a young lad who'd fallen in between some crags and broken his ankle. He was able to ring in for help, but he didn't know where he was. He wasn't actually where he thought he was when he was describing that to the emergency services. So me and the dog went and found him, and using the dog meant that we could search a lot faster to locate that person.
It was New Year's Eve, 1993. New Year's Eve of 1993, so 1992 strictly speaking. And my brother took her for a walk up Pendle, and he was bimbling along, and the dog came back out of the darkness. It had gone dark and barked at him, and he knew what the dog was up to, so he followed it up, and there was a bloke with a broken arm sat behind a dry stone wall. So I can actually lay claim to having the longest ranging dog in the associations, because she found somebody 18 miles away at the time.
So there have been unpleasant things to deal with, so things that tend to stick in your mind. Some of the dead bodies are very difficult to deal with. Remember particularly a light aircraft that crashed, and the occupants were still in the seats, but the thing had set on fire, and they were effectively cooked. That had quite an impact. That was hard to deal with. But on the good side, I can remember an incident where a young girl of about 10, 11 years old had a pet goat. It had run off at the goat, it escaped onto the moors, and the family had been looking for it for about a week. And I think it was winter time, and one evening one of the neighbours knocked on the door at tea time saying, "I've seen your goat, it's up on the moor top." And the girl dashed out before anybody could stop her and went and looked for a goat, and it was dark, it was winter, and she wasn't back, so her family were very concerned. The rescue team was called out to search, and we found her and the goat, and I was very lucky to be there when the two of them were taken back to the family. And seeing the parents when they got the daughter back, that was one of the really best things I've been involved with. You know, there can be nothing worse, I guess, than having a close family member missing and not knowing where they are. So when you find them, even if it's a fatality, it's good to get closure for the families. That's probably the hardest thing that we deal with.